All right, so welcome everyone, and thanks for taking the time out. Um, and today we're going to cover off a quick webinar on tools and planning to future-proof your business. And this is part of an initiative that the Penrith Chamber of Commerce is running over the month of October, which is Small Business Month. And we've run a weekly webinar each week in October, and this is the last one. So let's get into it. As I said, welcome. I know that everyone's very busy in their businesses, so really appreciate you taking the time out to attend today. And I think everyone who has that learning mindset and is open to learning, they're the ones that obviously make life and make business easier for themselves. So very quick overview. Before I get started, I might just get everyone to open up their chat box. On your screen, there should be a chat icon. I might just get everyone to open that up and just say hi, because as part of this, probably want to just keep everyone on mute and just communicate through the chat box if possible. Everyone's saying hi, excellent, very good. And Stacey, I might get you to just monitor the waiting room as well, if you can let people in as they arrive. All right, so very quick overview of the workshop. First up, I want to just do a very quick review of the last 6 months. Obviously, there's been a lot of challenges with COVID, and it's affected different people in different ways. Some people have done really well, others have found it very tough. So just wanted to recap on the last 6 months and what we've learned from that process. And then that will help launch us into the planning later on in the webinar as well. Then I'm going to hand over to Justin, and Justin will take us through some technology initiatives. Obviously, with COVID, I think there's been an acceleration in the take-up of technology, whether it's working from home, whether it's online marketing and online selling and e-commerce, and just being able to communicate with people in a different way. So he's going to share with us some of the changes that are happening there and that he's seeing with his clients. But also how to stay safe in an online world. We all know about viruses and hacking and everything else, so he's going to educate us on that. Then I will take you through a very quick and practical business planning process. It's a bit of a cut down version of what I normally do with my clients, but it's a great tool for you to take and use on an ongoing basis. And if we have time, because I do want to try to wrap up by 10:30, if we have time, I might actually get you to go through that planning process and actually write down some of your goals, the longer term ones and the shorter term ones as well. And then I'll show you how you can use that tool to refer to it every week and just get more done in your business and achieve more in your business overall. All right, so very quick intro from myself. I run a business coaching firm. I'm part of a group called Chan and Naylor. Chan and Naylor is a national accounting, finance and advisory group. We've got 10 offices around the country with over 160 staff. And I head up the business coaching division of Chan and Naylor nationally. I'm an accountant by training. I don't do any accounting work now, but it's great to have the foundations to understand business and really understand what a business ticks. I don't really work on any marketing. We can obviously help you, put you in touch with people who focus more on marketing. My focus is more about working with businesses that are growing and need help in terms of strategy, planning, better productivity, and overall making more money and being more profitable. So that's a very quick intro for myself. Justin, I might hand over to you. Oh, actually, no, sorry. Before we do that, let's just do a very quick exercise on the last 6 months. So what I'd like you to do is grab a piece of paper and have a think about two main things. One is, what are some of the wins that you've had over the last 6 months? And I'd love to get people to share these down the track, but let's just write down a few points on the piece of paper first. And now if you're electronic, obviously just type it in somewhere. But I think it's important because there's been so much change and so many challenges over the last 6 months. It's good to reflect on some of the good things that have happened. So just write down 3 to 5 bullet points, some of the things that you're proud of, some of the things that you're grateful for as well. What are the good things that have happened to you over the last 6 months? And if people want to share that in their chat box, then feel free. Just you can either write it down on a piece of paper first, or you can just put it straight into your chat box, and we can get a bit of sharing happening. Justin, you can still hear me out there? I know it's very quiet when I'm waiting for others to.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Very good. Okay, so there's a few things coming through now. So Anne said here, creating our online training courses, which is fantastic. I was actually talking to our Melbourne partner a couple of days ago, and he really took that opportunity in lockdown, especially in Melbourne. You know, it's obviously a lot tougher for them down there, to really put in place systems, you know, training, a whole range of additional services, just tightening things up, which has been, you know, it's really going to put him in good stead going forwards. Misty, we got pretty clear on our mission this year, which was very good. Excellent. I might invite a few people to share these, a bit more info on these. Andrea, quick turnaround of face-to-face classes to online classes, learning lots of new technology along the way. Excellent. I don't think we got an intro from Andrea earlier, but thanks for joining us. And Gordon, expanded and strengthened network connections, refined mentoring delivery, obtain new mentees, and self-education. Excellent. Very good. Misty, I might just get you to unmute yourself. Do you want to just share with us this comment about your mission? Because it's something which a lot of people probably don't put a lot of attention on in terms of understanding what their long-term vision and mission is. Just share a bit about what you've done there.
Yeah, so I run a film festival with the production group that I work with, and I work in events normally. I run major events normally, but this year obviously was different because those other festivals got shut down and back in March. And in the middle of the year, as people were scrambling to get online, you know, we put out a series online looking back on films from the archive. We started to sort of get our content out there online. Mm-hmm. But we were sort of watching what everybody else was doing, because our festival was coming up in November. And there were a lot of film festivals that were moving online, but they were very much just putting the films online and leaving people to enjoy those films by themselves. And that's wonderful that they were able to do that. And for a moviegoer, you know, that's a great experience to be able to have from home, being able to watch a series of films from home and enjoy that experience. But Made in the West Film Festival is very much focused on the filmmakers that we highlight at the festival. We have this little running joke inside in our team where we say it's not so much about the sausage, it's about the sizzle. Right. Mm-hmm. So we've always said, because we've started small, you know, the films weren't always the most groundbreaking films. These days they're pretty amazing, but we've always had a really big focus on the red carpet, on the filmmakers, on making sure they feel elevated through the process of the festival, because that is what will help people continue to make films. So we really tried to get down to the bottom of what we would like to be if we moved online, because we wanted to make sure we represented ourselves very fully. And so we decided that we were, first of all, about building audiences for our films, so the screening element. Mm-hmm. We also decided that we were very much about the celebratory element and the you know, shining a spotlight on those filmmakers, but we also are very much about the networking element, because Western Sydney is a very big region, and we are, you know, involving filmmakers from across the region, you know, so many different LGAs. And part of what the festival is about is making people realise that there are other creatives who are, you know, 10 kilometres away, maybe in a different suburb, who they can possibly work with. So identifying that was helpful.
Yeah, so doing that helped then direct you on how you would deliver, you know, migrate to this online world and work. Yeah, okay,
yeah,
great.
Absolutely. So we've developed the online festival to reflect all three of those elements, and we've in order to do so, we realised that we couldn't necessarily shift everybody online and have people feel very comfortable in that networking sort of environment without a lead up of events. So we've been running online events in order to get people to the point where by the time we get to the festival, they're comfortable with each other in that online setting and able to, you know, feel relaxed if we're filming it, putting it out there, you know, that sort of thing. So
thanks for sharing, Misty.
It's okay.
I think that's a lesson for everyone. It's so part of what Misty was saying was, you know, really understanding what others are doing, monitoring what others are doing, because we're all in a competitive landscape, and but then really understanding what our own purpose is, what's our points of difference as well, which aligns with that purpose, and potentially different to what others are doing, and really get back to, you know, why we do what we do, and how we can make a difference out there, and then allowing that to direct, you know, where our efforts go, and what sort of services and you know, how we deliver those products and services. So great. That's a great story there, Misty. Now I'd like to just flip over and start reviewing what some of the challenges were over the last 6 months. Obviously, there's been quite a few, I'm sure, but not only the challenges, but what you've learned through that process. So just spend a couple of minutes, once again, just writing down, you know, 2 or 3 bullet points, some of the key challenges, but what you've learned from that, how you've overcome that, what it's taught you about yourself, about your business, and how it can make you, you know, how it's made you stronger potentially going forwards as well. So once again, I'll just give you a minute or two to write down a few things, and feel free just to share that straight into your chat box. And while you're doing that, just one more win here from Christy was personal business upskilling we've been doing this year, yeah, which is good. Then I'll take that bit of downtime to do a little bit more training and upskilling and cross-skilling across the team. So as soon as you've got some challenges and maybe some learnings through that process, feel free to share them. Justin's got one here. How to get the team to be engaged for their mental social health. Initially a lot of video calls, but took time for team to learn to be free. Justin, you want to just share what you mean by that while everyone else is jotting down there?
Yeah, what I mean by that is we obviously moved. We were doing a lot of video, fair bit of video anyway, but it's sort of, obviously with COVID, it became, every call became a video call. We had lots of people working from home, and yeah, we had things like regular team meetings and so forth, but they could still be very one-sided, like they were presentations or webinars rather than a effective team meeting. So when you got people around a table, you can sort of see whether people are engaged or not. You can get feedback, you know, when people are, you know, if they're not in the office, you can sort of tell when people are down or struggling a bit. It's a lot harder to do when people are, you're only seeing snapshots of them for, you know, half an hour to an hour a day in various video meetings.
Yeah.
So it took us a while to do that, and what we've done is we've sort of created a bit of an around the grounds conversation, so that you know, on a regular basis, we just literally do an around the grounds, get people to talk about, you know, what they're doing, how they're feeling, and so forth. So it's less about the business per se, but it's more about them as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So it took us a little while for people to get used to that and opening up. Things that they would normally talk about in the office with other people, but on video, I guess they felt a little bit, they weren't sure whether they could do that. So once we did that, it really sort of helped add a bit more vibe back to the personality of the people and the team.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like that's there's a training module just in that there, Justin, because I think that's a very important thing. You know, it is, we can obviously feel a lot more disconnected being on video. Yeah. A couple of other things that people have said here. Gordon, changes in delivery from face-to-face to online. Spending too much time in front of the computer, less personal contact, and needing to change time management. That's from Gordon. Christy, obviously in the plumbing game, finding ways to work safely with our team and within restrictions. Misty, shifting our production meetings online was a challenge at first, but in the end we found we're far more productive as a team now. Excellent. And I think a lot of people are finding that. But it's balancing that productivity and the connection that you need with the team. So and Julian saying growing a new business with bushfires and COVID happening in the first year. So that's a good segue, I suppose, over to you, Justin, because people are feeling like Misty just made a comment there that it's more productive, and obviously we can save time traveling, and business and meetings can be shorter and everything else. But is that at a cost of actually having that connection with the team and getting other benefits of face-to-face teamwork? And I know Justin's going to cover that in his presentation. So Justin, over to you. Oh, you're on mute, Justin.
Yeah, just unmuting then. Yeah, so Justin Melton, I'm the CEO of Chill IT. I put that little slide up there because we often get chilly IT, so it is chill, not chilly. I guess that's basically taken from, we have a motto of being cool under pressure, because when IT problems happen, or people have got IT concerns, then usually it can be a fairly hot environment, because people obviously can't work and are productive. So it's about staying cool so you can get issues sorted and get a good plan in place for clients. Just want to jump to the next slide. So the key things we focus on, we try and focus on bringing, I guess, 4 key value to our business. We want to help the businesses we work with keep their spend under control with the essential IT services, keep them safe, keep them productive, which is what we spoke about, and obviously, stay ahead of the game, because they've got competitors, they've got clients who are moving in a very fast-moving tech marketplace. So that's what we try and do. So what I'm going to cover now is really just a sort of an overview of what we've seen and some of the things. So what's really encouraging is that some of the things that the people on this call have spoken about already are things that we're recommending to clients today, because we've seen a vast array of clients who have moved really rapidly, and other clients who are really struggling to just implement the basics. So we have the full spread of clients, really, people who are really tech savvy, really enthusiastic, to people who are, quite laggards in how they view technology. So it's a range of challenges out there. So in terms of the new normal, this is just a little bit of a skit to sort of talk about all the things we've seen in cartoons and science fiction videos for years. And realistically, a lot of these things were sort of there in the past, but they weren't really necessarily as accepted as they are now. So I think the Prime Minister made a comment, we've moved forward 8 years and 8 months during COVID, and that definitely feels like it's the case. The old video call was something that was actually quite, people weren't necessarily all that accepting of it in the past, but they've definitely become very positive about it now, and it's an accepted way to start a new business relationship, where before very much used to be only face to face. So let's jump to the next one. So there are a couple of things. I'm just going to go through a couple of key themes and how that impacts in terms of technology. So the first one is obviously work flexibility. So you can work anywhere, there's less office space required. But I think the other thing is that impacts different age demographics differently. There's been some research I heard on ABC Radio, which is basically, people who have, families are sort of older and left home are really happy with it because it gives them great flexibility, potentially more part-time in what they do. People with young families prefer it, but those in the sort of the 18 to sort of late 20s can struggle with it, because that social environment is often found in the workplace. So that's something to be aware of for your younger employees. From an IT point of view, what that means is most people are moving or looking to move to the cloud. They don't want to be tied down to things like servers in their office. So we've had quite a few clients who have either moved their whole back-end IT infrastructure to the cloud, or they've moved it to or we've helped them move it to one of our data centers so that they can manage the server there, so they can actually then downsize their office space, save money, and have a bit more flexibility. It means there's been a growing proliferation of collaboration and productivity tools from a software point of view, and obviously end user and device security become more of an issue, because it's one thing to have all your staff in an office. We can sort of monitor them, but now you don't really know what devices they're necessarily using. You don't to access their emails and other applications, and you don't always know whether they're following the right guidelines in terms of what information or sites they're going to. So that control is a little bit different. So there are more cybersecurity risks there. And I'll just circle back to, don't forget you have a team. because, you know, when the people are widespread and they're working flexibly, sometimes it can be hard. Yeah, it works well for a while, but, you know, we did have a lot of people here who loved the first 3 months of COVID, but after 3 months got a bit tired of it and wanted to come back to the office, just for, you know, the social element of it and feeling connected to the business.
And Justin, just quickly on your business, you've got quite a sizable team there. How many staff do you have?
We have about 20 in Australia. We've got another 6 in a group in India who support us for our 24-hour monitoring. So yeah, what we found was a few of them were distributed anyway. So for them, the main issue for them, we had 2 guys in Melbourne, and they were, towards the last 2 months, they've been very stressed because they just can't get out of their home. So they're working from home. They weren't allowed to go more than out of their home for more than an hour a day. So for those people, it was really, you could actually see they were struggling. So I really spent a lot more time talking to them on a daily basis to, you know, help them feel engaged. And in Sydney, that's where most of our team are. We've got a couple of people who are still working from home and loving it, and we've got a couple of people who basically begged to be back in the office. And we also had a couple of people, to be honest, who working from home and working flexibly just didn't work for them or for us because they couldn't stay focused. So we've had to mix that up a bit and bring them in the office a few days and work from home a few days, just so we can have a bit more control, because some people do struggle to manage themselves. So the technology is great, it enables a lot of stuff, but it also has, you know, personal impacts that you don't necessarily see unless you actually keep an eye out for them.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're on a webinar, so I'll put this one in here in particular. So I'll start with the My Story bit. So last week I sort of counted up all the invitations to various training, e-learning, webinars I go to, and last week was an exceptionally big week, but I had 37 invitations to join various webinars or training. So it's can be quite overwhelming, and the reality is I think I did 2 last week. So the invitations are just flooding into my inbox from, you know, all our suppliers, all our partners, and, you know, in IT there's lots of those. So it's very easy to get overwhelmed by it and then sort of almost buy out. So you've got to be quite selective in what you do, but you also need to be aware that in that environment, you've got to be clear what your purpose is of your e-learning, your training, your webinar, because what it does do allows you to reach a lot of people, have a lot of content on tap for people, but they're also getting that from everyone else. So you just need to be aware of it. So, you know, the model has changed. So training is definitely coming online. It was really good to hear. I think it was Andrew and Anne talking about moving their classes online and getting there. That's exactly what needs to happen. Because that online content does make a big difference to how people engage, because people want that richer experience. So it can be quite challenging. A lot of opportunity in professional development. So you can almost, those things, what I'm saying is there's a whole lot of courses that are very valuable from our technical point of view. We've got stuff for sales and other roles in the business where there's a whole lot more tools available to them relatively inexpensively now, which, you know, courses that would have cost, you know, many thousands of dollars are now there for hundreds or low thousands as opposed to what they were before. So lots of opportunity, but the real question is, the little picture down the end is it's a bit like drinking from a fire hose. So many options, it's hard to take it all in. So just be aware that you know, the model has changed. You need to be clear on it. It is sort of becoming a table stakes. You need to have content because your competitors are starting to build around you, and you've got to try and make sure your webinars stand out with a little bit of fun or some other zing, and obviously making sure your training is engaging, because people do struggle to stay engaged. I know one of the challenges with Zoom or team meetings is that, you know, you get a lot of people who are there, but whether they're really there or they're doing email or social media in the background is hard to tell sometimes. Marketing and sales, I guess the basic thing here is that there's lots of screens basically, and there's lots of things dragging for people's attention, and particularly when they're at home, when you're not there, there's other things dragging their attention. So there's all the, you know, the streaming channels, there's all the social media, but that all fragments where people are looking. So that means that some of the marketing becomes a lot harder to do because you don't know which screen they happen to be looking at the time. And yeah, where before it was pretty much TV or newspaper, now it's a whole gamut of things. So my recommendation there is, obviously you probably need to learn to join the dark side. I know there's a good video about social media on Netflix at the moment, which is a bit scary in terms of some of the things that it's implying about what happens there. But the reality is, if you want to get out there, you need to look at AdWords and remarketing, SEO, and it is a bit of a dark side and complex part of the business. So I'd recommend you need to find a good partner who you trust. We sort of did an experiment ourselves in this area because we haven't done a lot of this ourselves because we've typically worked on referrals. And we sort of spent a few $1,000s and we sort of cut it because we weren't happy that we had the right relationship that was doing it, because it's very easy to spend money here. So you really do need to find someone. So we're currently getting another partner on board to help us do that. But it is an art that needs to be understood. But let's not forget, relationship is still important, particularly for existing customers. So we went back and I did a touch base with all our key clients, call them personally, just to make sure that they're okay. Because one of the other things is that with video calls, sometimes you don't get the triggers of whether a relationship has gone stale or whether there's issues when you're just doing quick video calls with clients. So it's important to make sure that relationship still is there, because you want to keep clients, you want to keep them loyal and get more business. And the other one is content is king. So you've got to make sure you've got the right sort of content. We spoke at webinars and e-learning, and it was good to see that Christy from Sydney Metro Plumbing, has got a really good video there that was, it's got a bit of a life of its own in terms of what it does, because you've got good content, it does help you sell your brand in what you're doing. So I'm going through this fairly quickly, so I hope that's okay. Next one's business attire. I didn't really put too much in here. I've got a little giveaway at the end to talk about that. But basically, the old death. Saw an article the other day about death of formal wear. The people are becoming, in terms of working from home, it's pretty much almost anything nowadays. But you do need to be aware that when people are working from home, you still need to have an awareness. So we've got, I know with my guys, I've had meetings with them. I had one tech down in Melbourne. He's a fantastic tech, but he had basically a game on the bookshelf behind him, which was basically a drinking game. Right, so I didn't think that was appropriate for him to be showing customers, because he wasn't really aware of what was on the bookcase behind him. So just be aware of your environments, and obviously one of those is how you dress. So if you need to be at least be professional, even if it's not formal. So people can get a little bit lax when it comes to that. So, but I've got a giveaway. I'll give you at the end of the webinar. Just jump to the next one. I guess the big one is videos accepted and trusted. So that's the big change. So, business travel, local, national, that sort of, it is dying down. It has obviously died down. It's been very difficult to do. People have got so used to video meetings and working from home. I think that's probably going to be, those face-to-face meetings are going to be probably a little bit less than they were. But again, face-to-face brings you emotion and brings you empathy, which sometimes can be difficult in that video experience environment. So you do still need to work on that engagement, whether it's with clients or employees. You just need to be aware of it. What it does mean is that there's either a potentially reduction or a shift in costs for your business. So we had some businesses have lots of business travel costs, and they had the ATO on the radio coming in today talking about how their big trigger at the moment is people who are putting the same travel costs in as they have in previous years. They're the ones being targeted for audit. So if you haven't done your tax yet, don't overload your business travel, because that's their trigger. But make sure that if you aren't going to spend that money, you either take the saving or you shift that into some technology or some other area of your business that's going to help you. Probably the two big points I'd say, and this will lead into a couple of other slides in a minute, is it's got to be around collaboration, not just conversation. So it's very, very easy to have lots of faces, lots of voices, but are you getting collaboration that helps your business? Are you collaborating with your staff to build better solutions, better responses to your clients, better engagement with your clients, or is it just a chat? So you've got to be very clear that what you want is an outcome, not just a conversation. And the other part is related to that is productivity, not just participation. It's very easy to get everyone on a screen and think they're there, but as I said, I've got 37 invitations to webinars, so I'm typically doing at least 3 or 4 a week. But there's a lot of those webinars you go to where everyone's got their screen turned off and you really have no idea whether they're even vaguely involved in the conversation. So so the technology can help you with that.
Justin, can I might just ask people, feel free to unmute yourself if you just want to share your own experience with doing more meetings online, less travel, less face-to-face. What's been the, what's worked and what's more difficult? If anyone wants to unmute themselves and share, that the not the training aspect, not if you're doing online training. It's more these sorts of sales, client meetings. Just curious if people are finding them effective. I know that I was speaking with a client yesterday. They're doing a big deal with the Repco group nationally, and it's all been online because people in different places. Repco's in Melbourne. It's just people are more accepting of having these high level strategic conversations online, which is quite interesting.
And reality is, even though the call is online, the basics of a business call are still the same. You should really have, you got to make sure you have a clear agenda. You got to make sure that if you have the right information, data, reports available, you got to make sure you sort of understand as much as you can the person you're talking to. And with social media, LinkedIn, and other thing, you can find a lot more information about the people you're talking to in terms of preparation as well. So there are definitely some massive pluses in it. You just need to make sure you don't fall into bad habits. That's all, and just assume that because they're on a call, they're really paying attention.
Looks like no one's unmuting themselves, so let's just
so hopefully they're paying attention. All right, so what I will go talk about is just Microsoft Teams. So in terms of online meetings, there's lots of great options. Zoom obviously is one of those great options. So I think the key thing is that there's lots of tools for online meetings, but when it comes to teamwork and collaboration, there's a lot more stuff that you'll want to be able to do, and that's things like being able to share and work on documents simultaneously. It's being able to be able to set up collaboration teams or production teams or execution teams, both internally or with the client or with partners, and be able to share a lot more information. It's about collaborative tools that when you are having those meetings, you can do whiteboards, you can take minutes easily, it all gets tracked and recorded, and you don't have to then do a whole lot of other admin outside the meeting so that you can do that. So Microsoft Teams. So one thing about Microsoft Teams is that initially when it started off at the beginning of the year, it was basically Outlook with a few snazzy little features. You could do a bit of video calling. Then when COVID-19 happened, Microsoft basically got its ass kicked by Zoom, and they went, oh, okay, what's happening here? And they've spent bucket loads of money in the last 6 months. So in terms of 8 years of development in 8 months, that's definitely been Microsoft. They sort of to a certain extent, Zoom poked the bear. They've actually the amount of development is unbelievable at the moment. So I'm finding Teams an absolute joy to work with because there's so many things that are involved in it, and I feel like I'm only like at the tip of the iceberg. But the most important thing, there are a lot of small businesses that currently have Office 365 or Microsoft 365, and they actually don't even know what it can do. So they use it for their Outlook and their emails. They do the few video calls and a bit of chat, but they're using almost none of the other collaborative tools within the gamut. So it's really worth investigating what else you have in your license, or you can upgrade your license for relatively for $5-10 a user and get a whole lot more features that allow you to get productivity than you have today. So that's probably the first thing I'd say. It's understand what your application can do, and whether it's Microsoft Teams or Zoom or one of any other 1,000 other applications out there, they all have a range of features that can help you do more if you have a look at it. And probably the one other big plus I'd say for Microsoft Teams, it actually allows you there's a whole lot of other third-party integrations which you can build into your Teams experience. So you can actually create your own intranet-like team intranet-like page, whether it's for an internal group or whether it's for a customer or a group of customers or so forth. So they can all share the same information and content, as well as being communicating through chat and video within that environment. So it's quite a flexible and comprehensive approach in terms of how to manage a business.
Mm-hmm.
Want to jump to the next one? Yes, saw from Gordon. Yes, Teams is, so it depends on the 365 license, but for many Office 365 and Microsoft licenses, typically Business Premium, it's already included. And that's probably one of the key messages, because what we're finding is a lot of people that just they've changed to Office 365 or Microsoft 365, and they're just using it for Outlook. That's all they're using it for, and they've got all these other range of features that aren't there. So one of those features for Microsoft Teams is the security. So basically the security is built in. There are some other things that need to be done, but typically if you use the Microsoft Teams features well, it gives you basically secure identity management, which is really fundamental in terms of managing who gets access to your system and your apps, where they get access, and how you can manage if information gets stolen or restricted. It does a whole lot of protection of your business against various cyber threats. And the key message on cyber threats, I guess, is that cyber threat used to be the young hacker in their bedroom, basically trying to see how clever they could be. It's now changed to very much it's organised crime. So the latest stats on basically cyber crime is it's in terms of billions of dollars, it's about twice as big as the drug trade. So that just gives you a feel of how big it is, because it's really inexpensive to do and to be involved from an organised crime point of view, but the payoffs are basically global, because you can pretty much target anyone, anywhere by clever phishing attacks or denial of service or a range of other things that they can do. And the other one is just your devices, recognising that your devices are now all over the place. You've got people at home, they've got tablets, they've got phones, they've got laptops or personal PCs. All those devices are now effectively part of your network. So you need to be able to manage that, and if you need to be able to wipe the data remotely if that happens. So,
Justin, Andrew's asked a question here. How do you compare Microsoft Teams to Google Docs as a collaborative tool? I'm not sure if you know too much about Docs.
We do know a bit about Google Docs. Typically what we find is that Google Docs works really, Google are also doing a lot of development as well. So typically what, in terms of market share, Teams has got about, or Microsoft's got about 70% of the market. So what typically happens is a lot of people start on Google Docs, but when they need that greater level of integration, so they've got lots of really good individual applications, but that level of integration is still a fair way behind Microsoft Teams. No doubt it'll get better over time, but definitely Microsoft I'd rate it, significantly better. So I think if you're talking 1 to say 4 or 5 people, Google Docs is fine. As soon as you get a team of probably 5 or more, then Microsoft Teams definitely pays for itself. So, I am biased. We're a Microsoft Gold partner, so I'm not going to. I guess I wouldn't say anything else, but I have used both, and what I would say is that the way Microsoft Teams has what they've, we didn't move to the full Microsoft Teams environment until March this year, because I wasn't convinced it had all the things I wanted to do. So we had our own sort of built environment using our own Microsoft Exchange and a whole lot of other things brought together, and we managed it ourselves. But by about March this year, that's when I told my guys, look, we're just going to move to Microsoft 365, because we're spending all this effort managing our own environment when Microsoft 365 now does all that and does so much more than we could do. So, we're the lived experience of it. And my feeling is that we're still on, as I said, on the tip of the iceberg in some of the features. Every day I find a new feature that I've got to work out how to get into our business, because it's, it allows us to tap in, and we've got a couple of third-party apps which you can bring in there as well, which is pretty good.
So Justin, just conscious of time, I might just move it on.
Yeah, cool. So I might go through this slide. This is pretty much just an executive summary, so that when you see the slides later, you can just go here and just have a look. So that's basically just an executive summary. If you want to move to the next slide. So this is important, I guess. This is a study that came out a little while ago, but 80% of companies believe they deliver superior customer experience, but only 8% of their customers agree. So that's probably the key message. So technology can either enhance or distract or detract from your business relationships, both within your team and outside and to your clients. So you need to understand what role technology is going to do, because the ingredients of success haven't really changed that much. You've still got to collaborate, and you've got to have teamwork. You've got to have clear focus in what you're doing. You've got to have productivity. You've got to have client engagement. That's just a different way of doing it now. But if you don't plan for it and think about it and how you're going to use that technology, then the technology is happening to you rather than for you. That's probably the key message. And the last thing, so I want to jump to the last slide. If you just send me your email, or I can give it through the chamber. We've got 2 giveaways. We've got one on the video meeting etiquette. So we found this quite useful for a lot of clients, just to help them go back to their staff and explain what they want. And the last one is just there's got a cyber security, top 14 ways to protect your business as well. So that's it from me.
Excellent. Actually, before we go on to me, any quick questions for Justin? Or if you do have, just type them into your chat box, and we will be sharing our details later as well. Andrews just said, thanks, most interesting. But if there are any questions, then let us know. All right, so what I want to do to finish up is to look at how to effectively future-proof your business and deal with uncertainty, deal with the competition, deal with the change that's happening out there, just by spending more time in planning, getting things out of your head onto paper. It's amazing how many times I come across businesses and they all have goals, or some know where they want to go, but many don't write it down on paper. And so what I want to do is just share with you a very simple tool. It's a cut down version of the planning process that I go through with my clients. When I kick off with clients, I normally go through quite a detailed process, understanding what the market's doing and what competitors are doing and so on. But let's just go to this slide here. I want to cover off what I call the 4 time zones of planning. And I'm going to shift over to my iPad. So just type in your chat box that you can see that. That's my iPad screen. And I'm just going to draw up these 4 time zones and take you through it. Okay, and what I'd like you to do, if you want to do this yourself, then obviously grab a piece of paper. An A4 sheet is perfect. And just draw this box on here. There's this box and 4 quadrants. All right. And I'll just... Okay, so these are the 4 time zones, and these are what the 4 boxes represent. So just get a different pen there. So this first one, no, was that not working? I'll go back to my I don't know what's going on here. I always have no problems with my iPad here. Let me just start that that app again. All right. So it looks like
you just got the first lesson in IT support. Have you turned it on and off?
Here we go. All right, so this first box is 3 years. So it's really understanding where you want the business to go in 3 years' time. What are the goals you want to achieve? What does the business look like? So it could be the number of staff you have. It could be the services you provide, the markets that you're servicing, the types of products and services that you have. So just think about where you want that business to be in 3 years' time, and that's what that box represents. And obviously that's a long way out. Don't worry too much about how you're going to get there. It's just about unlocking the limitations that you might have, or that you might feel you have at the moment, and just dream a little bit and just unlock that creative side of yourself, and work out where ideally would you like to see your business in 3 years. The next is 12 months. And obviously this is much closer to home. So this time next year, what would you like to have achieved? You know roughly where you want to be in 3 years, but what about the next 12 months? Okay, so once again, write down a list of achievements, goals, projects that you want to have completed, and what your business looks like in 12 months. And you might want to add some personal goals onto this as well, all right? The next is 90 days. And if you've only got a small business, now Justin's got a larger business, so he can obviously hope to get more done in a 90-day period, and he'd have people to delegate projects to and so on. But if it's just yourself, then just think about what are the 3 key projects that you would like to get completed in the next 90 days, based on your 12-month goals, based on your longer-term goals, or there could be just things that aren't even in your 12-month goals list, but you know that they're projects that you want to get done this quarter. So all of my clients, I get them together every 3 months. We go through this quarterly planning process where we review the long-term goals, these 3-year goals and 12-month goals, and we put a new plan in place for the next 90 days. Okay. And then the last box is this week. And the way to use this box is have a look at what your projects are for the next for this 90-day period, and then get a Post-it note and just put a Post-it note on that box. So you can imagine this is drawn up on a piece of paper. You've got your 3-year goals, 12-month goals, and so on. Grab a Post-it note, stick that onto the week box, and then write down what the key goals are for this week to help you move towards getting the 90-day projects and goals completed. Okay. And then obviously at the start of every week, rip off that Post-it note, obviously cross off the ones that you've completed, rip off the Post-it note, put a new Post-it note down. And so this piece of paper will last you for the full 13 weeks in a quarter, or that 90-day period. Okay. So now it's 10:26. I don't want to spend, I was hoping we could spend some time on this, but what I'll do is I'll get you to spend probably only 10-15 minutes to get this together for yourself. Now, you don't need to rush it. If you want to allocate half an hour or an hour and think about this in more detail, then feel free. But I really encourage you to draw this up. Very simple tool. Get your thoughts down on paper. Don't try to overdo the next 90-day period. Just work out what the key projects are, and feel free to send that through to me, and happy to review it and have a chat about it as well. Okay. Any questions on it? Can I ask who here does do regular planning? Who has, let's say, a 90-day planning process where they actually write down their goals and review their goals every 90 days? And if anyone has any of their longer term goals written down, just curious if you can just share that in your chat box. So Gordon says here, regular planning but not revolving. I assume that means not doing it every 90 days. Gordon, you want to just unmute yourself and just share what you are doing?
Yeah, I have 6 months and 12-month goals, and do then always analyse against those, but I don't do the 90 days. And I sort of break the basically 6 months goals into actions, which is very similar to what you do on a weekly basis.
Yeah. All right, good. Thanks, Gordon. And I think the whole trick with planning is it's great to get things down on paper, but you need to refer to it every week. And that's why the week box is so important. It's about having a way to remind yourself, because we all get so busy. We're so busy doing everything else, and we can lose sight of the longer term and the bigger picture goals. So try not to put in your week box, try not to put down just your day-to-day, quotes that need to be done and, the day-to-day to-do list. Try to focus on what are the key higher level goals and projects that you want to progress this week, what parts of those 90-day projects do you want to get done this week? It could be, write the first page of your website, for example, if the 90-day goal is to complete your total website. So really it's about breaking that down, breaking the 90-day projects down into bite-sized chunks and what you want to get done each week. What else do we have here? We said, Misty, we do goal setting once per year, but the regular planning is more about tasks. If you do goal setting once a year, Misty, I would recommend you to, I use a quarterly process with my clients. It just helps everyone focus on a 90-day period, and I break that down into months, and then I meet with them each month or each week, depending on the client. Justin says, yes, we do. We did miss one quarter review, and that hurt us. So there you go. There's a good example there from Justin. So Justin, you obviously do every 90 days.
Yeah, we do. And the one time we sort of missed it, for a range of COVID and people reasons, we sort of never rescheduled it. And next thing we knew, we were sort of halfway through the next quarter, and the projects which were making progress, or we'd completed the next lot of projects, either weren't defined or we just went off track for. So we lost. I felt we lost a quarter of productivity because what it's really good is it really focuses. Particularly if you've got a team, even if it's only a couple of people who own them, it really gets them focused on what they've got to do, and they stay focused to get it done. So it really hurt us. I lost about a quarter of productivity because of that.
Yeah, and I think the lesson there is, people think they don't have time to spend planning their 90-day goals, planning their week. But as you said, Justin, if you don't take the time to plan, then you could potentially spin your wheels and just not get the important stuff done. And even though you're busy, everyone's busy doing things, are they the right things, and are they the most productive things? All right, so just flick back over to the pres. And that's all I wanted to cover off, really. Any other questions for either of us before we wrap up? Anything on what Justin's covered off with technology, teams, how to collaborate better with your people and with your customers as well, or any questions on planning and how to get more done in your business? I mean, obviously that's a big area. I mean, there's time management. I've got all sorts of different time management tools and tricks and tips, which we obviously can't cover today. Okay. Oh, Justin just shared a document in chat. What's that, Justin? You're on mute, I think.
To the 14 ways to protect your business and the video etiquette. I've just shared those in the chat box.
Excellent. So what we might do, we'll share the presentation and the recording and some of these tools that Justin has as well in an email out to everyone after this as well. All right. So next steps, as I said, feel free if you want to draw up that one-page plan. Then spend 15, 20 minutes on that and email it through. I'm happy to have a quick discussion and review that with you. And obviously, if you need any help setting up technology in your business or any of those tips that and giveaways that Justin has, then feel free to reach out to him as well. So that's it from us, I think. Just thanking you once again for taking the time to learn about how to future-proof your business and embrace technology and I suppose planning as part of that to cope with anything else that might happen down the track. As you know, the only constant is change, and it's always happening, and we need to be prepared for it. Thanks, everyone, and have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. See you guys.